What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode on the Landscaping Podcast, powered by Landscaping Unlimited. I am your host, Zachary Small, and today we are talking about how to stand out from the competition. Now, what I'm talking about is your teammates. So if you're applying to a job and you're looking to beat the competition, well, you're trying to beat everybody else that's looking for the same job. If you're already on the team, you already have the job, and you're looking to just be the guy that people say, be more like him instead of don't be like him, well, that's also competition too. So competition is good for the soul. It's good to make men better men. It's good to make people just better people. I often lead to male-dominated areas because I work in landscaping and on our team, it's mostly men. We do have a female on staff. Shout out to Miss Beth. But what I want to say is predominantly when the guys listen to this in the landscaping industry, it's mostly dudes. But this applies to everybody. You've got to be competitive. You've got to be competing in life to go out and be your best self. And now we're not on teams anymore, so it's no longer like we're on a football team or a soccer team or a baseball team, but we're on a landscaping team. And you still want to be the best to keep your spot. And so I'm realizing throughout running Landscaping Unlimited and just talking with other business professionals, not everyone is being taught like how do you be a professional? How do you be a professional landscaper, but just a professional individual? And so that's what we're going to go over. This is going to be like a mentor session of some sorts. And so if you're just tuning in, welcome to the podcast. If you have been listening for a while, you already know that my background is not in landscaping. And so when I first came to this blue collar industry, I'd worked white collar jobs after working in the military. And so I was a football player through high school. After that, I was in the Navy. After that, it was more a white collar federal job, then some online work, and now I'm here. And so the reason I bring that up is because when I first joined Landscaping Unlimited, I carried all the lessons I learned in the military and from federal government, a more white collar. I worked at the War College, so I was still around a lot of military with a high standard of discipline and focus on just having yourself put together, pretty much, of being a professional. And so I brought that here, and there were things that I saw that we started working on immediately because I was like, what's going on? And I realized it was easy for me to stand out from the competition because I got these little things right. And this no, in no way is this a one person is better than the other. But that's just like saying Tom Brady isn't better than the quarterback at some high school. Well, yes, he is. He was a professional. He went out there, he did it at a higher standard. And so they're both quarterbacks. Like people are people. No person's life is above the other person's, but you definitely are a better worker, a better individual on a team if you can bring or provide a more professional demeanor and atmosphere to that company. And so that's what I mean. Like, if you're not going to say, well, he thinks he's better than me because no. What I'm trying to do is give you the tools to help yourself be a better individual on your team. That's going to be a better person. That's going to be a better teammate. That's going to be a better leader. You're going to be better in every aspect of what it is to be you if you just get a few of these things right. So I've got 10 for you. And I'm going to sit, I'm going to break them down. And my hope is you take them, you apply them, or you ask questions if you don't understand them. But this is like a mentor session with Zach. Like I said, this is me just kind of trying to pass on some knowledge and wisdom to help you help yourself. And the very first thing right out the gate is going to be professional. Everybody loves to look at TV. They love to look at artists and musicians. They love to look at celebrities. They look at all these people, these businessmen, and they judge and they critique. Why would he do it like that? I would do it like this. And you talk about these millionaires who run these huge businesses, and you're talking about how you would do it better than them. But you're not a professional where it is that you work. So what makes you think you would be better than them at that level? And so a few things of being professional, when you walk in, like you're speaking somebody eye to eye, you're shaking a hand, you're punctual, you're properly dressed. The overall demeanor of you is that you are a professional who carries himself as such. You walk with your shoulders back, you have direction, you pay attention, and there's just this vibe to you. And this is the very first thing that's going to, everything else is covered in just this one part. If you get this part right, everything else I say you're already going to be doing. But it's being a professional. Stop being an amateur at life. Stop thinking you could just work your way through, just skipping by and trying to hide in the shadows all the way through life. You've got to step up. At some point, you've got to say enough is enough. If every single night what you do is you drink until the very next morning and then you go to work and you're like, well, I show up and I can work, but you're freaking exhausted, you're tired, you can just look like you're just barely hanging on. That's not professional. If you think that you can be balancing your job while at your job with a scattered home life, you got a lot going on at home and you can't keep it together and you can't get that locked in. Well, that's not professional. You're bringing it into the workplace. If your health, if you're constantly fatigued, if you're struggling to keep it together without getting winded, if you can't carry the equipment, or you can't carry on a conversation without running out of breath, that's also not professional. So understand, I'm not just talking about wearing a suit and tie, especially in the green industry. If you're wearing a suit and tie, this message probably isn't for you, though it does apply, but like I'm talking to the guys who are out there working. I'm in a dry fit right. If you're on YouTube, you can see me. I'm in one of our dry fit branded shirts right now. That's what I wore to work today. It's a hot day. The sun's going to be beating on me. I want to protect my skin. So sometimes I'll pull the sleeves down because I'm just always in the sun. And so shout out to my son who got me a sun hat, but I'm usually rocking a hat too. Right now I'm in the office making this video. So I've got the hair going free. It's going a little crazy, but it is what it is. I'm going to be donating it in roughly a year. So one more year of this and then we're done. But be a professional. Be someone who carries themselves like the person who could judge, the Jeff Bezos, the Elon Musks. You can go out and judge those guys because you are locked in your life. So there's a chance that at that level, maybe you could maintain it. But I mean, if you're just freestyling it, winging it, and something's always going wrong, something's always happening. And that's the thing about people who are amateurs. They always have an excuse as to why it's not working. It's always this thing's fault, or that thing's fault, or this person's fault, or something besides themselves. And every single day, every single week, there is a reason as to why they couldn't just be a professional and be locked in. You know what professionals do? They're locked in. They don't make excuses. They don't show up late. They don't come up with these reasons as to why they can't do something. They get it done because they know what their job is. Their job is to be a professional and is to do that well, whatever it is that thing is. So that's your first thing. All right, the second one, you got to be punctual. And this is where I'm going to go more into the nuts and bolts. So, like I said, step one, overall, just be a professional person carrying yourself well, like a mature adult. Two, punctuality. This is like the easiest thing in the world that people cannot get. Show up early is on time. If you've got to be somewhere, if you've got to be in the trucks and driving off the lot at 7, how are you going to show up at 7? And you could say, well, the workday starts at 7. That's right. But there's like a whole briefing prior, like just minutes. I'm talking minutes here. If you were if for us at 7 o'clock, your job might be 8. When they say people work 9 to 5s, I don't know if it's literally 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, but let's just say it's 9 to 5. You don't want to show up at 9. And this is as much for yourself as it is for the company. What I mean by that is it is terrible to show up to a job and as soon as you walk in the door, it's like level 10 chaos. But that's what happens when you show up right when things are going. Right when things are kicking into gear and the trucks are going off the road. If you show up right when that's happening, there is no like transition. It's from getting out of your car, from sleeping, whatever you did at home, to bam, level 10, you're going. But if you're to show up 10 minutes early, and that's my number. I show up at 6:50 for a 7 o'clock workday. So that's not super early. There are guys who beat me here every single day. And they always point to their watch and make sure I know they got here before me. Shout out to Ross. But if those guys get here earlier, that's their thing. For me, 10 minutes gives me time to walk in, have some coffee, talk to the guys, check, see what's going on with Shay, check the board, check my messages, do all that, sit down, get my computer out, have some more coffee, have some water, and then walk out there to the guys. And then bam, 6:58, we're having the conversation as to what's going on today. Cool. Between 7 to 7:05, everything is done. They're on the move. That is such an easier transition into the workday than showing up right at 7 and then just having to jump into the mix. Professionals are early. And you might say, well, I don't want to give any free time to my company. Okay. I understand what it is you're saying there. Like your job is to be there from 7 until whatever time or 9 till 5, whatever it is. But look at it like this. That is the most basic mindset to approach to a career that I've ever heard of. Why are you doing the bare minimum and expecting to get ahead? That's not how it works. If you show up exactly on time and you leave exactly at the time to get off, and you don't offer any opportunity to where you can show up and like have the conversations prior to kicking it off, and then if you've got to stay late, or even if you're getting off right on time, that's fine. But as far as punctuality and being on time, there is no need for you to sit there and think that you deserve a promotion over that dude who shows up early, the dude who's willing to be there and have the discussions prior to and kick things into gear. Like you're always going to be at that low level entry point until you start acting like a supervisor or a manager or somebody that's a team leader, because the team leaders have to be there earlier. They've got to get the information before they go. And so if you're like, well, I'm not getting paid for that, you kind of are. You're earning that raise, and that raise comes to the person who's early. And again, I'm talking 5 to 10 minutes. Now, when you're on that and you get to the truck and you're going to the job, it is good to be punctual there. Drive to the job, get out of the truck and go. There shouldn't be like a wandering aspect to this. I've seen guys smoking in the back of the truck. So then they drive to the job, they get out, and then all of a sudden they have to have a cigarette and they're sitting in the truck. And all of a sudden, this isn't even our company. I saw this of another company. I was sitting there, whatever. I was sitting there people watching pretty much, if I had to put a word to it. And I'm just looking around and I'm watching these guys go into their truck and just start smoking. And I'm like, they just got to the job. Why do they need a cigarette right now? And so then they're sitting there and then they get out and they walk around, they start assessing. And I'm like, dude, they've killed so much time. Imagine they just showed up ready to work, jumped out of the truck, grabbed the gear, and just went to work. They would be shortening the hours it takes in the job, which allows a higher profit to the company. Companies that make more money invest it right back into the people. You can't sit there and be mad that your company's not buying new tools or new equipment for you if you're not making the company enough money or at least clearing enough of a profit margin for them to invest back in the business. That's kind of like a you thing. All right. The third thing. So we've spoken about being professional, we've spoken about punctuality. It's when you're with individuals, when you're having a team meeting, when you're showing up at work, the first thing that you should be doing is paying attention. Just paying attention to what's going on and read the room. Don't sit there and light up your cigarette and start talking to your friend while the boss is breaking down what's going on throughout the day. Professionals don't do that. Professionals show up and they lock in. They're there to do something for that company. Their job is to provide for that company. It is literally, they were hired to do a job to make that company money. That way the company continue to expand and grow. And if that person's good enough at what they do, then they're going to go ahead and they're going to increase their profits, their financial incentives at the same time. This is not something that should be difficult, but I'm realizing more and more that people have no clue the role that they play in their success. They think that they should get more money, but when it's asked, like, why should you get more money? There's no answer. And that's a problem because why don't you know what is required for you to get more money? Yeah, I can tell you right now, it's not sitting there, showing up, talking on the side and not paying attention, or when a customer is walking by, you light up a cigarette and you're just sitting there smoking in front of them. That is not what professionals do. Stop thinking that you're a gentleman. Stop thinking that you're a boss. You're top G, whatever it is you want to call yourselves. You are not that thing if you can't get these little things right. And that's what we've got to dial in. We've got to dial in the understanding of what social awareness is, of what it is to actually be a professional in the green industry out in the world. If you can say like, I'm a ragtag, this is why I joined landscaping because I think we can just do what we want. We could be the Wild West. You certainly can. This is America, man. Nobody's stopping you. But people, and there are a lot of like high-end premium clients, they have a standard themselves, and they don't want the random dude who's just winging it, smoking cigarettes, talking shit, and just kind of running his mouth and swearing and just not paying attention. Like, that's not what professionals do. And your higher end clients, the clients who are premium clients that are looking for premium service, they're not looking to see your cigarette butts in the ground. They're not looking to hear, the crass conversations being had. They're looking for someone to come in and professionally mow their lawn, maintain their plants, or whatever it is that you do for them to lay their hardscapes and build patios or whatever it is you do. They're looking for someone to do that professionally. They don't have to follow up with you. They don't got to make sure that you're not peeping in their house or sitting there using their trash can for all sorts of stuff or ruining their stuff or walking on their flowers or just smoking and throwing cigarette butts around, swearing in front of their children. Like that's not something they should even think about because you're a professional and you shouldn't do it. All right. Before I go on a rant on that, the fourth thing, ask questions. So if you don't know what's going on, ask the question. If you're not sure why something's happening the way that it's happening, ask the question. If you're not sure why your pay isn't going up, ask the question. If you don't know what's needed for the company to grow, ask the question. This isn't hard. It is not hard at all for you to be a transparent person saying, I don't know. Like I said, my background is not landscaping. I asked questions every day. I can't even describe to you how many times Tyler, a dude that I worked with, would literally say, just shut up. You ask too many questions. Or Shay would just look at me and just answer another one because he would have patience. But I had a lot of things that I wanted to know. And a guy that, Jesse, I like to name drop here. So these guys, if they're listening, they know I still think about them and appreciate them. So this guy, Jesse, and a guy, Frank, they were kind of like my landscaping daddies. You're in the military, the new guy shows up, you get a sea daddy. So they kind of attach you onto a mentor and they show you the ropes. Where do you sleep? Where do you eat? They got to show you all those things. Well, my landscaping daddies were Frank and Jesse. And those dudes, I cannot tell you how many times I thought they were going to want to punch me in the face or hit me with a shovel. because of how many questions I asked. How much does mulch cost? Why do we put it down here? What is the level of mulch that we're supposed to put out? Why are we doing brown and not black? What if a customer decides this? Why do we rake this way? Where do we blow all the things that are being cut? Why don't we just put it back into here? What are the odds of us getting something like this? Have you ever thought about buying it like that? I can't. The phrase, have you ever thought of, or why don't we? Probably 10,000 times. And guess what? They would always answer my questions. I became a pretty good landscaper under them, understanding how we maintain the properties and why we maintain the properties. And then I got kicked to the hardscape crew. Maybe they kicked me out of landscaping. I never really asked the question, but I ended up on the hardscape and it just started over. Why do we cut it this way? Why do we price our jobs this way? Where do we get our materials? What makes us go with this versus that? Do we have any discounts when we go with certain companies? What's longer lasting? What's the focus? Is it for to last longer to look better? Why is it permeable? What does it matter? The questions go on and on. I was that guy. You can be that guy. Ask questions if you don't know. All right, number five, look the part. Like you should not have shirts that have swears on them. Your pants should not be sagging. Like there's no reason to bust a freaking sag when you're landscaping. You're at work. Like if you went to any college and the professor's pants were falling off, you'd be like, what the hell? If you went to a store and they're walking around Target or Walmart and their pants are at their freaking knees, you'd be like, what are you doing? Like, what is going on here? If you went to a restaurant, like, did you get my point? If you go to all these other industries, you would be like shocked to see somebody's pants falling off. But with landscaping, and in every capacity of landscapers I've ever seen on every company, it's like that is just a thing. You just let them go. Like, what are we doing? You are a professional. Act like it. And the same thing with the shirts. Like I said, I'm wearing a branded shirt right now. I always wear Landscape and Limited clothes when I come to work. The only time I would ever even consider not is one, if I didn't have any with me and we were like on a work trip or something. Two, if it was dirty, like let's say I've got like a really nice landscaping hoodie. I got a few hoodies actually. But let's say I couldn't find them and it was really cold out and for whatever reason, maybe my wife and kids all stole my clothes. Then I would wear like a general or not general, a neutral colored hoodie. I'd wear like an all black hoodie, an all blue hoodie. I'd wear something that didn't really advertise anything and I'd wear that to work. But in no way am I wearing like Ralph Lauren, and not because the it's premium, but there's no way like I'm wearing Champion or there's no way I'm wearing random clothes to work. I am at work at Landscaping Limited. My job is to wear this uniform. And to say that it's not it is a uniform. And we don't give pants like that's not something our company does. I know a few that do, but it's still like, all right, so get the pants that aren't falling off. Get the shirt that matches the company. We give hats out for us. Some guys don't like hats. That's kind of whatever. You're kind of free to choose the hat you want because hats are like you pick what they are. Got my hat right here. So you do you in the hats, but you've got to look squared away. If you're standing there talking to a customer and your nipples hanging out because the shirt's ripped and this sleeve is missing and your boxers are showing because your pants are like halfway down to your knees, well then guess what? Do you look like a professional? Do you not realize that you don't look like a professional? Like, is this a status thing? Is it a simple thing? Is it like a identity thing? Because to me, that all goes out the window when you go to work. You're a working professional. That's where that starts and ends. So get clothes that fit. We're halfway through our list. All right, six. Always help where you're needed. So if you come into the other day, I came into work, I noticed the trash cans were full. They were like overflowing. I was like, man, we got a lot of trash in here. That happened quick. So we went about our business, we did our thing, and I realized everybody was everywhere. Everybody was busy doing something, but I had to make a run to the shop and I had to make a run somewhere else. And I knew there's a dumpster at that other place. So when we came here with a few of the guys, with my son and Landon, we grabbed the trash cans, we put them in the truck, we brought them, we dumped them, we got what we needed done over there. And we came back, the trash was gone, we emptied it in the right spot, and we were able to get the job done that we were working on without any excess time really being added. Nobody told me to, nobody asked me to. I just saw it needed to be done. The other day when I was walking around one of the properties, I noticed we had these stakes we were driving to the ground to hold the edging, and they were these little white stakes, and they would pop off once you took the stakes out, which is cool. But a few of them had been dropped, or the wind took them, whatever, and they were around the property. So while we're doing our final walkthrough, I'm sitting there picking that up while the other guys are looking at tools. The other guys are making sure the rock flows evenly. Just help where you can. Just always be somebody that's looking to help and add value to your company. It is not hard for you to just do the thing. It's not as hard to do the thing than to sit there and try to choose somebody or find out whose turn is it or who did it last time. It's like, just do what needs to be done. There are times I show up on jobs and I see like a part of the trench has to be finished. Cool. I'm not asking questions. I'm going to finish that for them. You just jump in, do the work. Don't think any work is beneath you or any work is above you. If a conversation has to be had, well, obviously don't overstep your supervisor. But if he's not there and you need to have that conversation, have it in a general way to where you don't give specifics, but you do meet the client's needs and they do feel like they were heard. Or if it's grunt work and you're the supervisor and you've got to dig the trench, jump in the trench, get dirty. Yesterday, I was freaking taking handfuls of whatever, that we had torn up from a lawn and shoving it into the bucket of our dingo because it had to be done. I didn't have to do that. I could have told anybody else to do that. There's plenty of other things I could be doing, but that needed to be done and I was there, so I did it. And so for you, do the same thing. If something has to be done, just do it. If you see it, just address it. Don't sit there and think it's always somebody else's responsibility to get stuff done. Just do the job that you need to do. And honestly, I think if you were to do that, it's not just going to be noticed by people above you who might give promotions or recognition, but it's also recognized by the men beneath you who are following your example. And if they see that you're not above it, well, then they won't think they're above it. And so they'll just do it too. But too often there's this mindset of like, that's not my job. And if you work at the company, it's your job. Everything's your job because it's your job to ensure that company thrives. Anything that slows it down is a problem. All right. Back to early's on time. When you have lunch breaks, if you're allowed to leave your work site, cool. Make sure you're back before the end of lunch. If your lunch hour ends at 1 o'clock and your truck is pulling in at 1 o'clock, you are not ready to start work when you're supposed to be starting work because work starts at 1. So early again is on time. I eat in the fly. It's just like I don't like to sit for an hour and just stay around. There's so many things I could be doing that it almost makes my head hurt. So I don't like to take the full lunch hour that we have. What I like to do is I'll eat, I'll take my time, I'll check my phone, check my emails, whatever. Within that 5 to 15 minute window, I've done everything that I could possibly do to include eat. So at that point, I'm either just killing time. If it's an extremely hot and hard day, I'll lay in the shade and grab some water and just let my body temp stay low because I know I've got hours of work coming up. But aside from that, dude, I'm never the person who's going to be late from lunch, and I don't expect that from any of my men. If you want to be a professional, you've got to be somebody that can be trusted. And so that means when you've got time off or while you're on the job to go do something like get lunch, you've got to be able to be trusted that you're not going to abuse that and try to push the lunch, leaving early and showing up late because you're trying to get as much you time on the company's dollar. Because again, if you hate your company so much you want to steal money from them, like you need a different job. You're not going to rise the ranks. That's not professional. Again, that's what this episode is about, being a professional. It is unprofessional to not be on time or early or dependable or trustworthy. Professional individuals carry themselves as such. They are men who you can count on to get the job done, and they're going to be there on time. They're not trying to like manipulate or mooch everything off of everybody else. All right, 8, your phone. Leave the phones behind. We have so many freaking issues with phones across our society. People crash their cars because they're on their phone. People don't pay attention in class because they're on their phone. People are sitting there watching their phone, watching things in their phone they shouldn't be watching on their phone, and it's blasted to a TV. There's so much that happens with phones, and it gets so many people in trouble. It's like, just put the dang thing away. And if you're a landscaper or hardscaper, while you're on your phone, everybody else is working. So they're carrying the weight that you decided to drop off because the outside world is important. Professional men do not let their phone become a distraction. They do not allow their phone or what's going on their device to take more of a priority than what it is that's in front of them that their job is tasked with doing. So cool, you got an update on Facebook or you got a notification from Instagram, you got an email. It doesn't matter. Right now is not phone time. Right now it's time for you to go and do your job you are hired to do, which is that landscape or hardscape work. Focus there and get off your device. These things are distractions. And again, professionals don't let themselves get distracted. Professionals use their phones, they're not used by them. These electronic devices are designed to be as addictive as possible. It is their job to make you hooked. Screen time, screen addiction, you guys have probably heard of that. It's a real thing because the notifications, the beeps, the buzzes, the colors, they're all like perfectly researched and situated on that device for it to be as like tantalizing to you as possible. It is designed to get you hooked and to spend as much time on it as possible. The longer you're staring at the screen, the better of a job they're doing. But your job is to be out in the world. So your job is to use that device to either make you money or to get you communications or whatever it is, and then to put it away so you can go be a professional working your job. So leave the phones behind. Let it go. As adult men, you are not meant to be there like a child playing on a tablet. Put it away and focus on your job. Do your work. And then during that lunch break I was talking about, that's when you check up. If you have a water break or anything like that, feel free to scroll through, check what's going on, whatever. Then put it away and get back to work. But there's no need for you to have it on you throughout the entire workday and to be on it throughout the entire workday because it's going to distract you and it's going to slow you down, which again eats into the company's profit. So you being on your phone is technically stealing money from the company. And that's not what professionals do. All right, nine, accept critiques as opportunities. If somebody tells you you did not do a good job raking, ask them why. Let them show you why. Don't get butthurt. Don't get mad. Don't argue. Just say, okay, I'll work to get better. Can you show me what I did wrong or how I can be better? I have been checked 10,000 times. That's my go-to number because it's so many times. I've been told I did something wrong. Yesterday, I cut a board wrong. I tried arguing the case, but the board was cut wrong. And so I was like, all right, I'll cut it better next time. I got to take my time. At the very end of the cut, I just started tailing off when I was reaching out. And yeah, it wasn't a good cut. I didn't get upset. I didn't get mad. I didn't take it personally. I didn't think, oh, I'm a horrible person or oh, he thinks that he can just tell me I'm not perfect at this. It's got to be perfect. None of that stuff. But I've heard those things. I've heard people say these crazy disparaging remarks because they got critiqued. And it's like they're in prison. And in prison, like dishonor is a huge negative. Like you don't do that. You don't disrespect anybody in prison because that's the honor code that they have in there. And in that environment, it's one where it's very like dog eat dog. And so here, we're out in the free world, so we're not in prison. And if somebody tells you you're not doing a great job, learn from them. View it as an opportunity to either learn from that individual, to better connect to that individual, to see like what it is they're looking for, or to address that, hey, you said that I didn't do a good job, but like I'm looking at this and I think it's great. So now show me where it's wrong. Because you can still challenge somebody who says you didn't do a good job. So it's not that you just have to blindly accept it, but also don't just immediately think it's an insult to you. They're just talking to you. Like their job is to make sure the job is the best it can be. Your job is to do it the best you can do. And if you didn't do as good as they wanted you to do, they're going to tell you, don't get upset. Professionals don't get their emotions hurt. They don't bring their feelings into an environment where it's focused on facts. So focus on the facts, which is you didn't do a good enough job. Get your feelings out of the way because again, you're a grown man. So back to the whole children on tablets, don't be a child throwing a temper tantrum because somebody said you didn't do a great job. Just address it. Accept the critique and do better. If you're getting upset and you're running and you're just like you want to tell everybody how bad it is that they're picking on you or they're choosing it's you or they just keep targeting you. Well, why? Why are you that person? Ask. Learn how to do the things better and you don't have to worry about it. All right. Last but not least, be transparent. There is nothing worse than the person who keeps their mouth shut and just stews and stews and stews and talks smack to everybody on the team except for the boss. If you've got something going on, talk to the individual who can fix it. That is what professional men do. That is what professional adults do. They go to the source and they have professional conversations. I don't know if it's because we're in the South. I don't know if it's because, it's just something in the water in Beaufort County. But there are people, this is in everybody I know, every place that I've worked. It's like people will have a problem with somebody. So let's say they have a problem with A, but they will talk to B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way down to Z and never talk to A. If you've got a problem with your pay, talk to your boss or your supervisor. If you've got a problem with the crew that you're on, or if you've got a problem with the hours that you're working, or if you've got this, that, and the other going on in your life, and you don't tell anybody, but you like secretly have this whole war going on as if you think the other person knows how to read your mind, you are the problem. Professionals don't do that. Professionals directly address their issues with whomever the person that is meant to hear that issue is. They go to that point of contact. For us, it would be Shay. Shay is the owner of the business. He is the main operator of this business, and he's very open. So like he's with all the guys. So it's very normal for us to go to him. In a larger company or a different structured company, you might need to go to your team leader, and your team leader goes to Shay. Or they go to your supervisor, and the supervisor goes to the top dude, whatever it is. But you've got to address it directly. The people who are afraid of conflict, but still talk about how tough and how professional they are, but they can't have conflict, they're showing their cards. They're showing that they don't know actually what they're talking about. They're not professional, and they can't have a confrontational or adversarial discussion with anybody. Because I would definitely go directly to the source and say, hey, I didn't get paid for this extra day that I worked. Did you forget about it? Or did I miss something? Or are you meant to pay me cash that day? Like, what's the deal? Instead of hiding with the group and saying, I didn't get paid for that day. And you're sitting there talking side to side, man, this place, they're not going to pay. They're trying to be stingy. Bro, maybe the person just made a mistake, or maybe you're supposed to get paid and you didn't do something. You never know what it is. But a professional is going to address it directly, and a professional is going to be transparent throughout the entire thing. Be a professional. Be a professional all you do. Those are the 10 little mentor items that I've got for you. These are not all encompassing, and there are definitely many ways you can go about it. But I look forward to some feedback on this and what your guys' thoughts are and anything that I missed, because these are, if we want everybody to be professionals, we've all got to work together to ensure that we are being professionals. And so what that means is if I miss something, be a professional, let me know. That way I can correct it on my end and I can make sure I'm sharing that with my guys, and maybe I'll bring it on to another episode of the podcast. If not, then this is the perfect list, and I'm glad you guys were able to take something from it. So stay well, apply what it is that you've listened to today, go out, use it, and if you've got any feedback or anything that you have any questions on, feel free to let me know.